Right, good evening everyone. Hello. Hope you're all well. I think I'm stood in the right spot here. I've got a very specific spot for the camera that's good for the screen. Can everyone hear me online? Yeah. A bit bright in the face, not too kind on the hairline, but you know, we'll go with it. Right, so thank you very much to everyone for coming along to our first in-person product social. It's not even called that anymore, SocialCode by product. So I'm a bit nervous. It's my first time ever in 16 years in recruitment hosting an event. So please bear with me on this. But so I'm Colin. Some of you probably have spoken to me, and if not, you've seen probably this event online that I've been promoting. So I'm a lead consultant here at Oscar. The whole sort of ethos of this event that we're trying to promote, and the clicker's not working, which is a good start. So the whole ethos of the social code that we've started here at Oscar is kind of to use our privileged position as a recruiter, our kind of holistic view and our network of the market to try and bring people together into a community. My purpose with the product specific one was that I wanted to get kind of new voices together, new ideas. I know that from speaking to a few of you that you've maybe been to a few events, but it was always the same kind of people, same faces, same companies. So I want to do something a bit different, and I'm hoping that tonight we bring you something a bit different, and hopefully challenge a few conventions along the way. So unfortunately, one of our advertised speakers has withdrawn in the last 24 hours. That's Claire Giantzidis, who was going to speak on a women in tech topic. So apologies, she's succumbed to COVID. We were hoping she was going to be able to do it online, but she's not feeling too great. So hopefully we'll be able to run that another time. But we do have 3 great speakers for you here tonight. So we have Laurel Agnew of M. Brown, she's lead product manager here, and she'll be speaking about product role in a digital transformation. We've then got Duncan Hield from the Stagecoach Group, and he'll be discussing a topic around, sorry, I'm having to flick between pages because the order's changed. That's can too much data cause can too much data cause decision paralysis in product? And then we've got Erin Short from MMA Digital, back of the room there, and he'll be discussing scalability models in product. So enough of me, without further ado, Laurel Agnew, everyone.
Yeah, there we go.
Yay, there we go. Awesome, this actually works. I'm really excited about that. So hi, I'm Laurel. I work for M. Brown, which is an e-commerce digital platform, and we sell clothing, homeware, and technology. I'm currently managing their apps and their websites. So it's a very exciting role that we've got at the minute. My talk today is about product's role in business transformation. So business transformation is the umbrella term for how you change a business process, people, policies, and how product can affect that. So the background on this, M. Brown is 180 years old. It's a very, very old company, and it's moved to a digital first company. So how product can affect that is not necessarily talking about the overall business strategy. We're not talking about suggesting that as, say, an online comparison site, you start selling hats. It's about reacting to the roadblocks that you receive along the way and how you can influence the business structure to set your product up for best possible success. So if you're in this room, you know how important your role is to your product. Your product doesn't exist without the business behind it. The business needs to be structured to help your product get to best possible success. So what are we talking about? Overheads, anything that you notice that's taking too long or too expensive, any kind of sign-off delays that you're experiencing because you've got overarching policies in place where it needs to go through about 20 different people before you can get to what you need to be doing. Resource management, if it's not decentralized, if you haven't got anything that's flying back and forth, the kind of thing where you've got to beg and borrow to get the right people in the room. Lack of tools. What do you actually need to be able to do the job? This is business transformation. If you're saying that You need an extra tool in place to be able to deliver your product, the data that you need. If you haven't got the data that you need to make decisions, how you can help transform the business to gather that, even if it's not within your particular area. And clashing strategies, where you've got multiple stakeholders that are constantly wanting slightly different things that you have to deliver through a single area of resource. So why? To be able to meet deadlines faster. Is there a product person in this room who hasn't been asked why a deadline is delayed? To be able to be asked that less often, less times a day, so that features cost less to develop. If a feature costs less to develop, you can get more of them out there. You've got more bang for your buck. You've got more product that you're delivering. Releases cost less. How many people have got scheduled releases rather than release early, release often, the true agile? If your release costs money to do, you're going to face a delay of being able to release as often as you actually need to. Be able to react to bugs faster, particularly if you've got a product in live. Something horrible has happened. How long it takes you to be able to react to that bug, particularly if you've got your releases that need to be out there, means it costs you less money. And my absolute favorite one, you get to do less work for the same results. So you get more hours back in the day. If you're not sat in a community meeting, a committee meeting, and you're not sat there waiting for something to happen, you've just got to be in the room, it's pure waste. You can get that time back. You might be able to churn a load of tickets, get your admin done for the first time in 6 months, or get a load of features out there. Maybe you've got a brand new business case, a huge new bright idea that you could deliver. If your business is set up in a way that helps your product be more successful and give you more time back, you get to do less work for the same, if not better results. So how? Product is storytelling. Anything that we observe that is wrong, we should be able to demonstrate it and be able to explain and tell that story to people. You might not be able to affect that change individually, particularly if you're in a huge organization as well. But if you can demonstrate, particularly if it can demonstrate that in pounds, the cost of what something is doing compared to what it could be, even if your solution isn't the one that's chosen, you have demonstrated the cost in what's been happening at that time. My favorite one, my first example of things that you should challenge is budget. So if you don't have a decentralized budget, you are constantly asking for money to be able to deliver value. My view, and it's very much closely matches with safe, lean budgeting methodology, is that you should have a budget for your product. The company's already agreed that your product should exist because they've hired you, they've set the product off into the world, and they've got a team behind it. We shouldn't have this project-based mentality when we're working in a product methodology. So if you can decentralize your budget, something like this, you won't have the traditional budget where projects are the basic unit of work, people are brought to the work, so you're constantly waiting for people to be available. Measure compliance against inherently uncertain work. If you have a project, you're planning upfront rather than facing the roadblocks as they appear. The results from that are you've got a really high overhead. You've got an us versus them mindset with people who are in the project and the people who are outside of it, which leads to wider cultural problems. Lower throughput, productivity, morale, and spend is controlled through compliance to that big upfront planning. If you move to any kind of lean budget methodology, you've got lower overhead, we're in this together mindset, no budget surprises because you know how much you've got left and you can prioritize what gets spent on over what doesn't get spent on within the product. Higher throughput, higher morale, and full control of total spend, which would be absolutely lovely if we could say, yes, I want to buy that tomorrow, rather than having to submit, say, a business case, or in some cases, a 4 or 5 step process to get budget approved. So how? Every single meeting that you've got to do to get through sign off for budget is going to cost money. Count the people in the room and put a day rate against them. That's how much that meeting has cost the company. Whereas if the budget was already allocated to the project, that's cost them less money. If you can put numbers in front of somebody and clearly demonstrate how much each step is costing, you've immediately got their attention for why they should change to other areas. And budget is probably the most controversial one, but it truly is the biggest influencer of culture that you can make. Release processes. This is what it feels like a lot of the time. People telling you to slow down rather than get it out there, get it into live as much as you can. So this is potentially an area that you may have seen before. This is what actually needs to happen to get something to live. And then every single step thereafter is waste. So if you have any kind of change request process that isn't entirely owned by yourself, any kind of change approval process is an extra arbitrary step, or any kind of change scheduling process, you are moving further and further away from the agile methodology, lean of release early, release often. If you can demonstrate the cost of delay for every single feature and how many days this takes plus this live candidate being ready, you've got an immediate cost to your business, showing them how much a release is costing by not being in live. And we really need to be stressing the point to all of our stakeholders. If something is not live, it does not have any value. We might have worked on it for a year, but if a customer hasn't got it in front of them, that value has not been achieved yet. This section, if you're truly agile, could be a couple of hours. You could see something within the market and react to it and get it live if you're in full control of your release cadence. And bringing it back to that huge bug that we found earlier, this is our risk reduction as well. If you can release within a couple of hours, you no longer have the risk of things being alive. You can really experiment, you can be brave, you can make bets and really, really challenge what your product is capable of. Technical debt. So I'm going to preface this with, I don't actually believe in the term technical debt. There's no such thing. It's all business debt. However, for the sake of people actually knowing what I'm talking about, we'll call it technical debt for today. Where we have engineer-only led technical debt, where we don't think about it, we think it's just library updates, we won't worry about that. It's technical debt, they can deal with updating these things. You've got work done in silo, but no known impacts of the work. What happens if you update a library and that library has a load of downstream impacts because it's not compatible with your current technology? It breaks a load of things and we have a load of bugs. Yes, we can say that it's somebody else's job to do the due diligence. However, where's that team mentality gone when we do things like this? Hard to find the time to do it, which means the quality of our product is continually dropping where technical debt isn't included. Feature work may be delayed. The more technical debt you accrue, the slower you go. We all know this, but yet we never prioritize technical debt as something that we should be doing. And you have a clash between product and engineering, and you start slipping into a negative culture. Whereas if you have a team-led business debt, it's part of the regular priority. There isn't a single roadmap. There isn't a roadmap and then a tech debt roadmap. There's one single one out there. You've got quality as a metric of success. So your product is truly known by how good it is. You start counting your bugs and you feel an impact in that as well. You've got no unforeseen complications. I'm going to touch pretend wood with that one. Obviously, there's never no unforeseen, but you know the risk that's coming up if you know that you've got a major update 6 months down the line that you need to do. And you know that that means you have to be less brave with your feature choices within that time period, unless we prioritize to do it early. You've got a full backlog of all the work needed to prioritize. You've got a true idea of your team's run rate, and your team is fully united. Take, for example, analytics. We know that UAGA 360 is going to be degraded and is going to be gone in a year's time. The update to GA4 or GA360, whichever we're using, needs to be done. It's just a piece of technical debt, switching two libraries over. However, the two consumptions are completely different. You could completely mess up your data science team and all of their reporting if you don't give them enough advance warning. Not speaking from experience on this one. But these things, if we don't give them enough advance notice, everything has an impact. Every piece of technical debt should be led with what stakeholders and what downstream impact that we have. And if we can demonstrate the scale of the technical debt, you might even be able to argue for a couple of extra people on the team so that you are actually delivering features on time and actually achieving your quality metrics. Clicker's not working. Oh, right. I've gone a little bit ahead. However, okay. So my hypothesis for this is that every single person in the room is immediately thinking about a process, policy, or piece of technology that constantly slows them down. How are you going to prove it? you can sit there and you can count how many people are in the room and say, calculate the rate that it's costing you to even have the conversation. I do have a little waste calculator that I really enjoy applying to some ridiculously large meetings. You can show the cost of delay for anything that's slow, and you can show the risk of not doing it. Everything has a metric against it. You just need to figure out how you're going to prove it. So yeah, please let me know how you get on. I'm really, really passionate about this subject. So if anybody comes across any particular interesting roadblocks as well as successes, my details are on the screen. Please let me know. Yeah.
Right. Any questions, people?
Is there anything you approve of being slow? Any process that you go, actually, it's good that it's slow?
There's a potential for some QA in riskier environments. Allow QA extra time on regression. However, we should be treating that as let's get more automated and make it less risky in future. Yeah.
Any more for any more?
No.
Nothing from online either. So yeah, we can always chip back in at the end if there's any more that come through.
Yeah.
But, look, thank you very much, Laurel.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant talk. Thank you. Right, short break for refreshments, pizza, beer. Please eat some pizza. We've got pretty much one each for you by the looks of it. So please help yourselves. We'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes. Good honour for doing that. Next up, we have Duncan Hield from Stagecoach.
Thanks, Colin. Thank you very much. Hi all. Thank you very much for letting me come along this evening. Thanks, Colin and the team. So yeah, my name is Duncan Hield. I'm the group product lead at Stagecoach. And it's been interesting. A number of people here tonight said, well, what on earth does Stagecoach do about digital? Well, we do lots, and we're transitioning from very traditional based business through to mobile ticketing and a number of different web platforms and app platforms. And really what I wanted to talk around this evening was some of the things we've struggled with, I've personally struggled with through my product careers about, you know, there's never been a better time to be a product manager, and there's never been a better time for data, for information. So really that's just wanted to talk through some of the things that I've done and what we've done at Stagecoach as well today. And I wanted to start off really with a quote. And I know it's an old quote from Theodore Roosevelt, but it's a really, really kind of pertinent quote about doing the right thing. Either do the wrong thing, the worst thing you can do is nothing. And as product managers, we have a really critical position in organizations, all sizes, different shapes and sizes, to actually make the decisions, typically those tough decisions that everybody else is kind of swerved or lands at our desk, really. So we get to make those decisions, those recommendations, and that can be a really tough, lonely place working in the product world. So I always kind of think about this. We have to make a decision. We have to make that call. And we need data to make that call. Otherwise, without data, it's often like this, driving blind. And none of us, I guess, would get in a car to go on a journey if we didn't know kind of what energy or fuel we've got, what speed we're going. So we need data in all parts of our working life, and particularly in product, we need data to make decisions. But sometimes that data can get a bit too much. And really, nobody likes surprises as well. So when we make decisions, we have to make sure that we make the right call usually as well. So nobody likes any decision surprises as we go through. And if we don't get those decisions right, if we kind of use our kind of intuition, hunch, and kind of gut feel too much, and we don't use data to inform our decisions, we can often miss our targets. We don't get the right product market or product customer fit. We don't get the revenue targets. We don't hit those outcomes that we're really looking for working in product. And as I said before, there's no better time really to work in product with the amount of data that's available to us all of the time, both quantitative and qualitative data, commercial, revenue, customer feedback, analytics, multivariate testing, the whole range of data, NPS scores, all sorts of data that we can use, we can tap into to help inform our decisions that we have to make working in product. So there's so much data in there. And really, I've worked with lots of teams, and we have these kind of people. We work with some really clever data science people. I mean, amazingly clever, but they always want more data. They always want more metrics. And typically our business leaders often want to get more data and more metrics and put those in there. And that makes our job really, really tough. And I often think data and KPIs are like babies and puppies. And I know from personal experience, having a couple of kids and a puppy, that no, you're not going to meet many people that say KPIs and data, much like babies and puppies, are wrong. They're a bad thing. nobody's going to stand up and say, yeah, I don't like them. So that increases the actual range and data we get. But I know from personal experience, babies and puppies, they can soon get out of hand if you don't kind of get some guardrails and boundaries and all those kind of good things. They can get a bit out of control, and yeah, I know about that. And I don't know if anybody feels like this, a whole tsunami of data. You can ask for data to come through, you can tap into data, and sometimes you can get too much. There's too much data that we can kind of face with, and we have to choose from and make decisions. So really what we think about is a decision paralysis. Now, there's been research done back in 2004, even back to the 1950s, around the paradox of choice, which is as people, and generally what I find in product, that product people can really take on lots of data. The ability to assimilate and synthesize lots of data and process it can get really high. However, with a number of choices, there's a real point during that process where you can get something called decision paralysis, where it's been proven by research that too many choices or too much data can actually cause anxiety, stress, and you just get kind of overthink it and get really stuck. And decision paralysis can happen. It can happen in your home life and very often in business, particularly when you're trying to make decisions around the products and your solutions. So that can happen. And really what I've kind of lent on and learned and developed, having made loads of mistakes through my product career, is it's a process, much like most of what we do. It's very much a process driven. And two of the things that I've kind of developed and lean on and thought about really is about a decision-making framework, but also crucially for your team, for yourself, for your business, is around decision principles. And I just want to share an example that we had, that we kind of hit a decision, kind of decision paralysis point at Stagecoach. And we're in a really privileged position working at Stagecoach. You've probably seen the buses around, probably familiar with Stagecoach buses around the country. But we're really privileged. We connect about 3 million people a day with home, with work, with doing all of their things in their daily life. And one of the things I'm going to talk about was coming out of the COVID pandemic, about how we responded to a particular customer need that we identified. And that's particularly about how busy is my service, how busy is my bus. So that's really what I want to talk around. And in the context for this, that we were coming out of lockdown. I don't know if anybody can cast their mind back. It seems a long time ago, but coming out of the first lockdown, we identified a need for our customers around social distancing. And those amazing people, those amazing key workers that we transported to and from the hospitals, the care settings, the shops and all those things, they had a real need to travel. But really providing a view, a visibility of the capacity of the services was a real challenge, allowed other people to plan their journey. And we had a really quick turnaround. And I'm sure everybody in the room kind of understands about the business wanted it now. Yesterday, you're talking about we need it in hours. So normally at Stagecoach, sometimes we'll have the kind of luxury of some longer times, weeks of turnaround, but this was a quick hours turned round. So we had some real challenges. And where we hit the paralysis really was around, so we work at scale, we work across the whole of the UK, across all of the different nations in England, Scotland, and Wales, all around there. And we had tons and tons, there's no shortage of data. We had probably too much data coming through. We had lots of kind of MIS data, we had mobile ticketing data, we've got cameras on the actual vehicle, so we investigated facial recognition just to see if we could monitor the actual frequency and service usage of our services. Our data science team, we've been looking at AI, we've been looking at some machine learning as well. We thought about the ticket machines. You probably, if you've caught one of our services, you'll be familiar with this machine. The driver's actually counting people on, counting people off. All of this stuff was coming into the mix. And the time pressure put on myself as the product lead and the team really kind of focused our mind. And we hit some problems. The kind of the three big areas we hit focused on this: data distrust. The data was incomplete. All of the data was incomplete. We knew that. Some of it was a very small tolerance, but some of it was much bigger. There was gaps. Not all of for example, the facial recognition cameras were rolled out across the 9,000 fleet. So there's a lot of data distrust between the team. And also data days. There was just so much data. I don't know if anybody's kind of got that, where you've just seen so much data, you just become a bit blind to it. It's just a cacophony of information that's hard to kind of work through. And this was my biggest fear. What if we got it wrong? But then I kind of flipped it and said, well, what if we don't get it right? What if we get it right? So those are the kind of areas that really put us into a kind of a paralysis state of what do? We need to do something. We've got all of this data. None of it's perfect. What do we do to come up with a solution? And that's really what we focused on. So decision principles, and a lot of these things you'll recognize. Putting the users, what matters to our customers, our users, really at the center of our thinking, and let's build the solutions around there. And this was an interesting, it was a new one for us within the team. You're familiar with minimum viable kind of product, MVP. We tried minimum viable decisions, smaller decisions, package them up, test them, iterate. Product bets, I guess, we probably call them as we're looking forward. But that really worked well. Biases, confirmation biases, a number of biases that we really had to kind of focus on to really work through it. But also focus on simplicity and the criteria. Once we'd reached the criteria that we'd set for that particular data point, that we could move forward. And this framework of identifying, collaborating, taking action, and then evaluate, that framework, really simple framework, helped the team move through. And we utilised on the app, so we did it on an app base. And we at the moment, we have about 1 million monthly active users on the app. At that time, even coming out of COVID, there was hundreds of thousands of users per month using the actual app. We built an algorithm, we put in some machine learning, and really simple things like color-coded directional indicators to help show users what the actual, almost like the busyness status of the bus. We didn't just rely on color, because we've got a number of users which rely on accessibility technologies. So we supported that with a narrative as well that really very, very simply helped to show that this service is usually quiet at this time. This service is usually quite busy. Really, really simple way to present a lot of interesting data, really complex data, but abstract that and really make it simple for our users. So we did a lot of that stuff. And that's me sporting a mask out on one of our buses at the time, because I've always got this ethos: if in doubt, get out. So not just sitting behind a spreadsheet or Tableau for looking at our data warehouse, but actually out on the services, talking with which customers would actually talk to me. But at the time, normally customers are very, very willing to talk to us. But at the time of COVID, nobody wanted to speak to anybody, so it's quite tough. But it's the way it was, so we got out there. And doing that, we really kind of pulled together a really good, simple, quick approach to actually showing services, harnessing lots of different data points. But we discounted, we actually made the conscious decision to discount some data because it wasn't reliable enough, it wasn't timely enough, it wasn't kind of feasible for us to use as part of our validation. And really, we did quite well out of it in terms of feedback. We were nominated for the UK App Awards for this particular service, really focusing around the support for key workers. We've had some good coverage across the press, across the UK. But this is what the most important thing is, the outcome that we achieved is people like this lady here were able to actually plan their journey with much more confidence, feel safe, and have a much better experience using our digital interfaces, really. So that was a real big outcome. And we're still learning, we're still iterating, we're still moving forward with that data. So really just to kind of bring it to a close on some of the takeaways, I think the things that I've certainly learned, and I always talk to my team and people I work with, it's about getting comfortable with a couple of key bits. It's not going to be right, you're going to make mistakes, it's not going to be 100% perfect, accept that, but make the best decision you can. And data's messy, it's not always, it's not always complete, it's partial. We have to accept that, but make some decisions with our decision principles and our framework that really allows us to move forward in a really constructive, positive way. And really the thing I think about, get a simple process, get all the relevant information. It's a collaborative thing, it's a team sport. It's not just you on your own making those decisions. Get the inputs from people. I mean, Ollie, our head of data at Stagecoach, is an amazing guy. I lean on him for so much, just to get his opinions and thoughts, but as well as his data, really, because you work with some really great people. It's about being confident you're making the best decision you can at that time with the data that you've got. You're going to hit some decision paralysis as you move through all of the different products. Some decisions are really quick and easy. Some are much more difficult, particularly, I started out in my product career at health tech, and that was really difficult. You're making decisions that affect actual patients. Okay, this is important for 1 million users a month at the moment on our bus app. But if I get it wrong, it's only about service being less busy than others. So it's about some perspective there, really. So those are the kind of key takeaways I've got. And really, I'll kind of end on a quote, whereas I started, don't be a squirrel, don't get flattened, you've got to make a decision. So that's where I end up, really. That's what I've learned, really. I've made some mistakes, but yeah, I've been the squirrel. I try not to be these days. Okay, that's for me. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Questions from anyone? That app for how busy the workforce is quite inspiring. Just wonder what feedback you had from actual live users.
brutal, to be quite honest with you. So just also, we get lots of feedback. Our App Store reviews, and they're open. We get lots of brutal feedback. Well, lots of good feedback, and it's about sifting through. As part of the kind of the release process, we held back a little bit before going live a few days, so we could gather, so really we could get more data from our users. For example, the color coding, we did it the red, amber, green. You'd expect it like a traffic light. Really bad feedback, because what we found, where services were flagging as red to show that they were really busy, people wouldn't get on. They thought there was an issue with the service, so they actually avoided the service completely. They thought it was a problem. So, but we're still learning. We're still really learning about that. Yeah, but it's a good one. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Really enjoyed that. I wondered as well, with the traffic light indicator.
Yeah.
Was there any pushback from the business who were saying, like, this might be putting people off using our buses? Yeah,
there was. Really well. It's an interesting one. There was 2 pushbacks from the business. One was about that. Would it put people off? Would it make people concerned that their service they're going to get on is a bit busier? So that was that one. And we thought about that. We tried it with some users, and user feedback, just to, the colleague's point there was that they'd rather know, be more informed, so they can make a conscious decision. That was the user feedback, and the business got on board with that. The other was a competitive. So we operate our services in a competitive environment. And if we publish that our services are really busy, our competitors could quickly put on another service to pick up our business. So that was one of the real challenges to get over, was the commerciality of it. But thankfully, we've got really great support from our senior leadership team, and they just know, the customer being informed to make a decision is the most important thing, really. Yeah, good one. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough, lots of opinions. We have, I've worked with a number of hippos and zebras in the business, and the highest paid person's opinion, all that good stuff. Yeah, definitely. Hi, Ram at the back. Yeah.
So I've got down in an environment that's probably not so receptive to change.
Yeah.
Let's say, how do you, especially when you don't have all of the data, how do you influence the rest of the business to make those decisions, data-led decisions, when you don't they're not necessarily adding to like the revenue, and then also like for the safety of the staff and the people.
Yeah. Sorry, apologies. Yeah, so let me get this right. Hopefully get this right, Ram. So basically, how do we engage with the rest of the business? How do we convince the business around decisions if it's not revenue earning, if it's not related to that? So it's an interesting one. You mentioned a good point as well, I think, there, Ram, which is about safety. So for us as the UK's largest, I think, operator of buses, safety is number one. It kind of trumps everything. So safety is a really big one. So data is at the heart of driving the safety metrics and all those good things. But I think, particularly for our kind of the developments we do for our business to consumer, business to business customer base, I think it's a mix. What we find, and I don't know if that answers the question, but what we find is a mix of quantitative data in terms of what the data tells us, the metrics it pushes, but also qualitative, the voice of the customer, that really drives it well. And if you've got a particular, I don't know, I'm thinking, I'm not going to call out any names, but if you think of a particular person in the business who's resistant to it or not on board with it, that voice of the customer, feedback and all those good bits feeding into that data set will always, in my experience, always kind of come out on top. Yeah. Is that okay, Ram? Does that answer the question? Brilliant. Thank you. It's a really good question, though, because it does happen all the time. Yeah, it does. I've got a question on the live stream.
Okay. We've got a question here from Tahid Ahmed. I think he's actually watching from India. We're international now. So, how do we create a psychological safety blanket where product managers and stakeholders can make mistakes and realign themselves?
That's for everybody. Is that right? Is that what I'm thinking? Was that for me? That's a really good one. We're going to phone a friend on this one. That's a tough one. Wow, I don't know. A psychological safety blanket. I think where I found this works well is in innovation hubs. The experience I've had, I don't know if anybody else has had this, I've worked in a larger company with an innovation hub, and the business very quickly wanted to measure and monitor and monetize and all these things, and it really skewed the product off from what it was about. The product needed to learn and iterate and develop, and there wasn't that psychological safety blanket, if you like, there, because all of the team, all of the engineers, the data science, the product people shifted their thinking from, is this the best product we can make, the best solution, the best problem we can solve for our customers, to thinking about the metrics and the KPIs and the monetization. And I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a cultural thing for the business. Everybody involved with that, ranging from the delivery teams through to the senior management, is around getting on board with this is where we are at this particular stage of this project and program and product delivery.
Is that probably like a fail fast type culture where you give people latitude to try things?
Yeah.
And know that it's not working?
Absolutely, and being able to pivot. I mean, many people are Red Lean Startup and other similar things. There's lots of things around there, but the ability to pivot and be okay with that as a business. And I use the acronym FAIL, first attempt, and learning always with the team is that you're always learning and don't be afraid to fail. Sometimes it'll work. Very often it will work, and you learn a lot from it. Definitely.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Good question though.
Any more from the floor?
So I've joined this company recently. So I've observed the data before the pandemic and after the pandemic.
Yeah.
So you were ready to adapt to a new situation where in the COVID time basically. But the data that you had previously would be completely different from the data that you got now. So how much time did it take actually to adapt to the situation? To create a new strategy and put it on board and then actually put it into action.
So you thinking, so just to replay the question, so I understand. So you're thinking pre-COVID, leading up to kind of March 2020, where data sets all there, and then post-COVID. So we worked all throughout COVID, and I think it's about having a sense of business agility with data. And I've really learned that it's a really important thing I've learned. I had the preconception that data's always got to be perfect. It's always got to be 100% right. Everything's got to be right. Otherwise, you can't trust it. And I've shifted a little bit on that dial. I'm not, bad data is bad data. You got to be aware of that. But I think it's about having some flex. And I think it's thinking a bit more expansively about data. So for example, if you're getting some data and it's showing 10% more than perhaps it should have been, it's still good quality data because it's still within tolerance and you can use it there. But as a business, one of the things that I mentioned, Ollie's an absolutely awesome guy I work with. He's come into place and he's put in a data strategy, and it's a very practical data strategy as well, that he's socialized a lot with the business. It isn't just the data team and the engineering team, it's everybody. Data is oxygen to everybody in the business, really. So that's something we focus on. But we're still learning. We still always got lots to learn. Yeah.
Because the company I worked in, it's into sales. So the forecast that have done for the COVID was actually higher than usual.
Right.
Usual sales. But then after COVID, the sales have actually dropped and they've remained with excess of stock. Right? So they're trying to get rid of that stock.
Yeah.
So the forecast that was previously there, it's completely shifted. Right?
Right. Yeah. And you have to shift, don't you? You have to as a business shift. And I think product, I said we're in a really privileged position in product because we can drive that working with the teams as well. But no, it sounds like an interesting challenge you've got there. Definitely. Very good challenge. Good luck with that. Definitely. Please.
Actually sparks thoughts in my mind. I like the slides about the babies and the puppies, and data, of course, we hear about increasingly.
Yeah.
But data literacy isn't talked about so much, and if you like, that's the equivalent of parenting.
Yeah.
Because there's an assumption that data speaks for itself.
Yeah.
But I love those examples of where the story is actually quite anomalous.
Yeah.
Should we be thinking more about spreading data literacy in our organisation?
I totally agree. Yeah, I really do. I mean, I've worked in organisations where they've been tracking 600 plus KPIs because they think it's a good idea. But I really ask the question, are you getting any insights from that? Are you driving any action from that? No, it's vanity metrics a lot of the time that people have there. And literacy, I think the hardest question many organisations have is what are the questions they want to know of the data? You often get blank faces. Anybody else has experienced that in business? You ask your team, what is it you want to know? I don't know, give me a dashboard. What are you trying to find out? So yeah, I totally agree. Data literacy, understanding the metrics, and it's the classic things, turning those metrics and insights into actions is the really hard bit. That's where the magic happens, I think, when people in organizations do that. Sure, no, thanks, good question.
We live in a world, we all know the importance of the data. I personally think, there's the quality of the data, which matters rather than the quantity of the data. And we being the product managers, we are in the constant under pressure of using the data to back up your rationale.
Yeah.
Don't you think, relying too much on the data, which probably is not so much relevant, has restricted the sense of innovation for the product managers?
Yeah, it's a really good, I had a slide, I took it out actually, where it was talking about the mix, and I think it's really about this. It's about intuition and experience based on the years of kind of product and service delivery and all these things that people do. You're right. I think it's a real mix. I think if you try and build things from a spreadsheet, you're going to get it wrong. I think it'll tell you part of the picture and it'll shine a light there, but as I showed my picture, you've got to get out, you've got to talk to users, understand the problems. Data's really good and it can prove lots of things, but I think it's part of the mix, definitely. Some people disagree with me, particularly in my business. They think data's the be all and end all, but I agree with you. You've got to have that spark of innovation, that magic touch, haven't you, really? And that data can help with that, but it comes from us. We're not robots, we're people. We have great ideation and things. So yeah, that's what I think anyway. I think it's one of those long debates. I think it's a good one. Yeah, for sure.
It's just around how you down the data. So you mentioned that you discounted some of it.
We did, yeah.
How did you choose what to discount?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really good question. It was part of our decision-making framework and our principles, really. We kind of validated it. Was it timely enough? None of our data was 100%. We had, 98% kind of completeness and stuff. Where that tolerance level on the threshold was really low, we had to discount it. We couldn't rely on it. So it was kind of a validation process of the data points. And really, the question we kept asking ourselves was, does this add value to the customer? Can we get anything from this data that will help to really show what the business in that instance there? And what we ended up was triangulating several sets of data that was reliable, and we kind of then translated that through an algorithm just to show a kind of a traffic light indicator, which looks really simple at the top, but there's lots of complexity abstracted underneath. Definitely, but a simple validation. And just to really respond to the last point, it's really hard to discount stuff because you want to put it all in there, but you've got to be tough with yourself, really. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I think mine's sort of related to that as well. So you mentioned there was a data trust issue.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that, and what structures do you have in place to ensure that people continue to trust the data?
It's a really good one, because there's two parts there. I think during the design process and the kind of the ideation process, and then ongoing as well with the customer level of trust. So the ideation process was fairly straightforward because we knew certain data. We knew there was some known knowns, if you like, in terms of some of the data that just wasn't complete, the frequency, the timeliness of it. We knew some of that data wasn't coming through. We also did some spot checks, again, going out and actually looking at the services, but also tapping into our staff. We've got brilliant people that work for us, drivers, engineers, revenue inspectors, all sorts of great people, and they'll help to feed through to validate some of that data, really. So that was part of the delivery process, and we iterated as well just to see that it was reliable. Going forward, that's the really tough one, because you build it and it's like, great, we've set it all up, let's move on to the next shiny thing, the next innovation, the next thing we can work on. But that service is running, and I say we've got 1 million app users a month, and not all of them, but lots of our customers rely on that data to actually plan their journey. So that data kind of resilience and reliability, we've got things in place, checkpoints in place to really do some comparisons of the data. So, for example, where we show a service isn't busy, we've got some checkpoints to actually check if that service is busy or not. And that comes through from people boarding the bus, ticket sales, all sorts of things as well. Yeah, but a good question. Thank you. So, yeah, go for it.
What would you say is the most important data that you have to make decisions around the business?
Oh, that's a really tough one. That is one. As a business, we've developed, I think it's an industry first, and again, this is by Ollie, not so much input from me, a dashboard of safety. So safety is number one for us. So there's a whole range of metrics, lots of metrics that we had as a business. And what we've done as a business is kind of distill those down. And we've now got a dashboard that goes from board to the road, if you like. Everybody in the business can see this. And that's for us is the major thing. We've got all the usual things. I do the revenue and MAUs and customer NPS, all those really important things. But I have to say, it's a business, safety. But for me, working in the digital team, leading the product team and digital, there's a range of stuff. For me, it's about, I think Google have done something really good, which is hearts over charts, which is about happiness and engagement. It mixes some qualitative and some quantitative metrics. So that would be my kind of focus, which is, are we solving problems for our customers, and how can we monitor that with KPIs and measures, really? Yeah. Sorry, a long answer, but yeah, that's what we're thinking for data. Sure. Cheers. Any more questions? All good?
We're done, and there's no more from online. So
great. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate the chance to come and talk. And thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
5-minute refreshment break, toilets, and then more pizza. More pizza, please. And yeah, see you shortly. Right, thanks everyone. So without further ado, he's not come to audition for X Factor. It's Erin Short. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. Hi. So, yeah, good act to follow. Fantastic speech from both our keynotes. We're going to talk about, let me use this clicker, the journey of scale. We're going to talk about how I've scaled products in the past, principles of scale. I'm not very orthodox, so if it doesn't make sense or you think it's a bit weird, my approach to technology and my approach to product is quite peculiar, but it's had led to success. So we'll talk through approach, principles of users, and execution, and how whenever I build anything for anyone, these are the three areas I always kind of come back to, regardless of how far I run off into the product woods of thinking, oh, I can build everything in the world. So who am I at the moment? So I've just been appointed as the new Chief Product Officer of MMA Digital, but previously before that, at the age of 22, I created my first application. I was 22 years old, the youngest person to ever do it, and Northern Powerhouse Investment Fund raised £1.6 million off a piece of paper and created the largest HGV driving app in the UK. Statistically, right now, if you count 1 to 12 lorries on the road, they work for me. So I have one of the largest logistics networks that no one ever thinks about. By the end of the year, it'll be 1 in 8. So if you spoke to a lorry driver down a pub and you said, oh, do you work for the Veil app? There's a good chance he will. I say he will because it's 98% male. So yeah, I've got a lot of experience in growing products. I've done it really successfully. I've done it a few times over now. I've built some death products. I've built one of the only social media companies for death. I've built some fintech stuff. So I've been around the block. I'm not going to up here and talk to you about things that aren't true. I won Tech of the Year two times in a row. Yay! It means whatever I say to someone, whenever someone says it means it wasn't a fluke. I must have done it okay. So I won that twice in a year, and this is going to be weird. I have absolutely the beauty about product is you can be really unorthodox, and the more you let your creative side come out, the better you can make a product. And I truly believe that it's been really great for me. So I think you're in a really privileged position if you get to create products. You get to think about things that you think are okay, and then hopefully they are. So yes, if it's like I said, if it's going to be a bit weird, take it with you, or don't, just leave it here. So approach, become the user. I am a really user-centric kind of CPO. I live and breathe my user's life to the point. Last week, I was going around photocopying with one of my users on an admin user of one of 1,500 people that use our current application, just to understand their motivations on things. I think whenever you build a product and you want to scale it, you really have to get into your user's life. And I don't mean that from sitting behind a desk and having a big conversation around senior leadership and around I mean, really go. I've been fortunate enough where my products have really flown off the shelves. And this is one of the biggest things. One of my biggest secrets, if I was ever going to say you want to build a product that's going to really go somewhere, really get in with your user, almost to a creepy extent. Don't hide in bushes around them. Don't do that. That court order did fail. No, so don't do that. But you do need to spend time in the life of the user. Go where they go. Spend time with them. Don't just hypothesize about things with them. Everything's great on a piece of paper. We can draw it all down, and we can all get really enthusiastic about what our product means to someone, and write down, oh, this motivation, this motivation. You're thinking up. Let me be really honest. You're thinking up someone that doesn't exist. Everyone tries to be amazing humans. We all try to do that, but we aren't, and that's okay. But you need to understand how you can get the best out of someone and make their life a little bit easier. So look behind the curtain with compassion. We all have it. Regardless if we like it or not, we all have our own crap, which we pretend we don't do. And in product, to make a really good serviceable product that really is intuitive in someone's life, you need to make sure whenever they're showing you that, part of their work routine, their life routine, their personal routine, their aspirations, it might not be the most amazing thing you've ever seen. So you need to make sure when you're seeing that you're fixing that problem with compassion. It's a really important factor. Whenever you bring emotional feeling into building a product, you need to make sure it's servicing someone in the right way. And find the essence of the problem and fall in love with it. Don't try to solutionize something. Fall in love with the problem and then keep picking it apart. It's one of the biggest things. I don't ever ask someone what they're trying. I ask someone their best case scenario. Martin Kagan says, it's a great saying, start with a vision, continue with passion, be driven by knowledge. Whenever you're building a product, don't ask someone what they think is reasonably fathomable. The amount of times I speak to someone about, okay, I'm going to actually start building you this as a product now. They say, oh, that's not possible. Well, leave that down to me. You just think about what your problem is and let me try and solve it. It's a really important factor. So that's part of the approach. Another part of the approach is aligning to business goals to the possible. So I call it the sweet spot, a point of inertia. Point of inertia is, if you imagine throwing a ball up in the air, as it gets to, it's not going up anymore, it's not going down anymore. There's a point where it's completely weightless. And that point, there's no outside or external force on it. This is what I call my product point of inertia. I try to find it in any product I tried to build, and I align it to three things: my user goal, my business transaction, and my business ambition. User goal, everyone knows what user goal is, okay? So that's plain and simple. The business transaction, what am I trying to get out of this immediate interaction? Is it a social value? Do I want someone to like something? Do I want someone to engage something? Do I want them to send it to someone? Do I want them to get to checkout? And that's your business transaction. That's important right here and right now. And then your business ambition. What do I want to be known for? And how do my business transactions all align to my business? And these go, they're plait like hair, and you have to be able to find them. And when you find them, double down on them and understand them. So find the sweet spot of all three pillars, like I've just explained. It's really important. User goal first. If you can't find the user goal, stop building the product, go home, do something else. All right. If the user goal is not there, it's not real. Let's not kid ourselves. I've been down a journey of a lot of tech debt. We spent a lot of someone else's money building something which wasn't real, and I learned a lesson from it. So if it's not there, you can't find a user goal, move on to a different user goal. Don't invent a hammer before finding the nail. I think it's a really good saying. Don't try to solutionize. Don't try to create a problem. Don't try to accentuate a problem if it's not there. If it's not a massive problem and your user can't explain to you as a massive problem, it's probably not. Now, if your business transaction, your business ambition can solve a really small problem in a really good way, great, but you need to align your whole business to that. We're going to be 1% of someone's day. We're never going to be this big show stopping. People aren't going to get out of their phone and say, this is the new product. It's not going to be that. And as long as you realize you are that, you can build a business around it. So it's about understanding your business ambition and spend a time evaluating the value to the business. There's so many products I'd love to build in the world and make everyone's lives loads better, but no one will ever pay for me to do it. No one will ever pay me to use it. So as much as we'd love to all do that and wear hippie shirts like me right now, yeah, we can't. So make sure you're evaluating to the business, because at the end of the day, as product people, we have to make sure that we kind of return that value back. Try to break it with every design. I mean, really try. Whenever I build a product, I spend more time trying to delete my product than building it. I find out every reason, and you have to be really skeptical. One of the biggest things I find with all my product staff and all the people I've ever trained in product is they overemphasize how good their product's going to be to someone because it come out of their mouth. When we say things as humans, we marry ourselves to it. It becomes part of us. It's an extension of ourselves, and it's a really toxic trait to have in product, because you won't ever try to challenge your own product. If you don't challenge it now, you're going to get slightly further down the road, and there might be a few more challenges. Get slightly further down the road, and before you know it, you're 2 years into a product that no one's ever really tried to beat up. And you have to beat up in a sense of saying, it's like a bit of tough love. Saying, I want to beat you up here and now. I want to understand this product inside and out. By the time it gets out into the marketplace, it knows what it's dealing with. It can handle all these objections. It can get over hurdles. And I don't need to rebuild a team and refactor things to understand how to actually make it manipulate and work in that marketplace. So when I mean, this is one of the biggest things, beat it up with love, right? Beat it up, mark it down, and understand how to make it better. Because if you can't rationalize it to yourself in 100 ways about, okay, I know you won't use it because of this, and this. Okay, and you understand and make your product more intuitive. And laser focus and don't overbuild. One of the biggest things is about really making sure that most of the stuff that I've ever built, I'm embarrassed by the first iteration. I do that regularly because it means I'm not wasting my money or someone else's money on building stuff that isn't truly there yet. So laser focus, whenever you build a product, really consider what are you actually trying to solve. Don't run away with yourselves. I have team members that have to pull me back so I don't run away with myself. It's one of my biggest learning curves. Really nail down on what you're trying to solve and don't try to be complex straight away. Loads of simple, tiny products put together creates a complex product and creates a product offering. But the simplicity of it gives you that kind of allowance to be able to do that. User principles. Why we do things, I think. So these are some of the things. I'm not going to give away all my secrets because then you'll all compete with me and that'll make my job a lot harder. But some of them: key success, expect laziness. Regardless if we like it or not, everyone's lazy, and we are, and it's just human nature. We're lazy in a sense that if things don't align to us, or it's not something that adds immediate value to us, we find it really difficult to do it. For example, someone go and mow your garden for 5 hours. No one wants to mow a garden for 5 hours, right? It's not because it's going to give you gratification at the end, and it's going to get you there. It's something that needs to happen, but it's not something you wish to engage in. And I think one of the things that we find in product is we don't expect laziness. Whenever we imagine our users, we imagine them to be better people than what we are. And over many years of my life, I've been able to pull back that kind of onion effect and understand the person I am to be able to build product that is intuitive to people that are lazy. There's aspects of my life that I'm not, there's aspects of my life that I am lazy, and I've got products and technology around that to help me be lazy. And I do that on purpose. So, so if you expect that, and you expect it not in a way of looking down upon it, but looking in a way of saying, okay, well, I expect someone to try to make their lives as easy as possible for them, you can expect laziness, and it will make your product more frictionless. And frictionless means happy users. Happy users means users that tell people about things, and that means bigger products. Two key motivators. The two key motivators I've ever found in my life of any products I've ever found is it either makes your life easier or you want to be known for it. That's the only two things I base all my products around. If you can nail both of them in a product, your product will outsell any product I've ever made. It will. It's really simple to do it. If it doesn't make your life easier, for example, instead of spending 20 minutes, half an hour on a task, you can now spend 5 minutes on a task, which means you can focus on things that you want to do at work, not things you have to do. Okay, so for half an hour of my life, I have to key this information in. Okay, I use this API now, I can do it for 3 minutes, I key the information in, and I can spend the other 40 minutes now talking to my boss about other things I want to do because I've got more free time. Or you want to be known for it. Perfect example, and please don't take offense to it, when people buy Louis Vuitton bags. I have Louis Vuitton shoes, I like them, but I don't like them because they're the brand. I don't like them because of the design. I like them because people know that I'm okay with money, I can buy nice shoes. And that if you lose your ego on things and you look at someone for their human behavior when you grow a product, people talk about things that give them extra perception. So a veil, I on average take like 2,000 or 3,000 new users a month in, month out. We don't market. I spend no money on marketing. Our users do it themselves. The reason they do it themselves is because we pay them the most money in the industry. So you get all these guys that go down to the pit stops, go to the lorry stations and go, I earn more money than you. That is the start and end of the conversation. They say, oh, how do you do that? Oh, I'm on a veil. And they want to be known for that because that's a user behavior that I'm in aligned with. I don't judge on, I'm agnostic to it, but I know how to leverage that principle to make my product grow. So if you take that human behavior and you understand it, and you don't view it in a term that's not there, you don't view it in a term that's none of us do it, we all do it. I could sit here all day and tell you the million things, the shitty things that you do as humans, and I do as a human, but it's the principle of how you grow a product within that, and say, okay, well, I can build a product that makes someone's life easier, and it's reputational to them, so they'll feel better around their friends about it, they'll feel better as a human being, they'll be doing something that aligns to their moral compass, there's something to do with the environment. If anyone's got environment tech, I'm really interested, by the way. Environmental tech, stuff like that. And it aligns to their moral compass. So that's one of the user principles. And attention span. TikTok is absolutely screwing product owners. Product owners, all product, you are absolutely screwed. You've got 9 seconds before they're bored, right? That is ridiculous. It's one of my personal battles I'm going against here is our attention span. So Microsoft did a research paper on it. We're in goldfish territory before we get bored. So good design is never seen. You never complain about things that are well designed because they're well designed. It doesn't bother you. Just get on with your life. It's frictionless. But now you've got 9 seconds to make a good design and for someone to get from one place to another, regardless of its complexities. So you have to really think about, okay, I'm dealing with 9 seconds before someone thinks this is shit. And that is a really key factor to put into product. Because if you've got a bad design, regardless of what it adds to the end, bad design will always get complained about. And whenever you're spoken about, when you're not there, or your product's out in its marketplace and it's going around doing its stuff, it's going to be saying, oh, it's not intuitive. It is intuitive, but TikTok is just scrolling around and you get a 3-second video of someone dancing and that's what you think good design is. So yeah, personal hatred for TikTok. Secret slide, don't tell me. This is a really good slide. Anyone played Gears of War? Anyone ever played Gears of War? Okay, Gears of War. Anyone ever played Call of Duty? Heard of Call of Duty? Perfect. Okay, Gears of War. What they wanted to do, Call of Duty is a big online shooter, billions and billions of pounds a year, make loads of money, and they still can't hold a good server. It's terrible. But Gears of War wanted to compete with them. They said, right, we want to compete with them. By the way, Call of Duty is like the learning curves like that. Gears of War is like this. It's so much harder. It's ridiculous. It's more of a competitive, it's more of a kind of hardcore gaming thing. Gears of War were like, right, we want to compete with Call of Duty. We don't know how to do it. There's like, we don't want to make our game easier. We don't want to like make easier matches because you won't be seen for that. So what they did, sneaky, they were very clever about this. They gave everyone a damage buff and a health buff. So for people who aren't gaming in here, they gave everyone they made everyone 20% better without telling them they've made everyone 20% better. So for example, it's like having a car that can go, it's 20% faster, 20% more maneuverable, 20% brakes harder. And they gave them that behind the scenes. So as your first game as a Gears of War player, say, okay, I'm going to play online with my friends. We'll play online for a few games. You've got this behind the scenes user behavior interaction happening. What they're doing is they are manipulating you to think you are better at this game. They're going, you're better at this game by 20%. This is a good game. You're good at this game. Play this game more. They do that for 5 to 8 games. So what that does is it creates a user behavior behind the scenes. There's no soft function. They're not trying to bribe you. They're not trying to say, oh, come and do this. You will enter a competition. They've literally made your experience better. So after them 5 games, that wears off and you get put into the normal pack of people. And you look around and go, okay, well, maybe I'm just having a bad game now. And they saw a surge of increase of online gamers because people used to think they were better at Gears of War than what they were, when in fact they were just manipulating them. Really unethical, really like it. Really clever. So look at what can't be seen. Like think about that in your product. How do you make it a better experience, even if it's loss leading? We've gone back a slide. Execution. It's like an orchestra. Execution is the hardest thing to get right. You might be brilliant at painting, you might be a great creative. Execution is a taught, is what you teach yourself. You have to cut your teeth on execution and break them at points and then put them back in and hope things go well. Execution is the hardest part, and it's the part I have most admiration for. It is really hard. Don't think it's not. You're aligning so many things all at once, and if it comes right just once, that orchestra of user behavior, kind of product design, UX design, release, marketing all comes together, and it's wonderful. And if you ever get it right, really take a breath and say, I've managed to pull together in my own way a lot of different things all happening at once and create a decent product. And that's a really special thing. So from me to you as a product person, take a step back and go, yeah, I'm a boss. That keys to success: always test again. Make sure you build it as you can get away with. Testing vigorously in a place where you are environmentally considered. You can own that environment. You can consider yourself kind of the owner of that space is really, really important. When you're putting this stuff out, you need to put it to friendly faces. Not friendly faces that will tell you, regardless of how good or bad your makeup is, you look beautiful. Friendly faces to say, actually, go to the bathroom, you need to redo your eyebrows. They're the kind of people you want to talk to, because it's like when people that go on X Factor, thank you, people that go on X Factor that can't sing, you'd rather know before you get there. So let's embarrass ourselves behind closed doors. Let's talk about it. Let's get friendly users in, user groups, and let's ask them to beat it up. Let's really talk about it. If they like it so much, use it. let's not just sit here and actually use it. So test again, and build as crap as you can. Just because you have to lose your ego with stuff. You can't be doing. You have to really kind of understand that only because it comes out of your mouth doesn't mean it's going to be good. It just means that you've had the kind of to step forward and say, I'm going to try this. Measure everything as closely as possible. Whenever you put anything out, you should measure absolutely everything about it. Any data applications you can put around it in any which way. User groups. You want to kind of both. You want to measure it in every way you can. Essentially, I can go into like loads of detail, but you want to make sure you can see it in every viewpoint and every lens, both from user side, business side, and the business transactional side, just to make sure when you start to actually really develop this thing and put money behind it and start putting development resource behind it, you understand its downfalls. If you can go to a product and say there's absolutely no downfalls to this, you've not lost your ego. You just think you've made the best product, and that's going to end up to weakness. Move quickly and double down on what works. I think that's easy enough said. And build something that 10 people love, not 100 people like. 10 people love will talk about your product. 100 people like will talk about something else. If you can get someone else talking about your product and saying this is actually really good, this makes my life easier, and also I earn more money, which is what Avail does. Brilliant. What we're doing at MMA now, if it makes my life, we're facilitating stuff. So does it facilitate things that make my life easier? Yeah. Does it save me money? Does it add value to my business? And these are the questions we're finding from our users of what two things are important here. So build it for 10 people. If you've got 100 people that like it, delete it, start again. Main points. Just the research phase. Do I know my user? Am I hoping they'll be an amazing human? If you think they're going to be an amazing human, you're lying to yourself. They're not. We're all okay people. We try to be amazing at points. We'll all have amazing moments at times, but day to day, everyday life is hard. It's hard for everyone. So don't expect your user going to get up out of the bed, spring straight up out of bed, shirt and tie the immediate second, sprint out the front door, hair perfectly combed. It's not like that. And people build products that are like that, and then products die. That's it, because you don't have time for it in your life. So spend your time really understanding your user with as much compassion as you can. Creative. Have I solved it as simply as possible around my user's day-to-day activity? You want to insert yourself into someone's day and say, actually, this slight change. We're animals of routine. 66 days can create a routine of anything. And when I mean of anything. So if you can get someone to use it 66 days, 70 days, a day in, day out, you've got them. They're yours now. And they will continue to use it for forevermore unless someone else gets them to do 70 days or something. So you need to understand user behavior, to use human behavior in its basic form, not in all this crazy form. Just stay on the top level, otherwise you'll drown yourself in it, of how to create behaviors and how to understand and become part of that. So to create something, behavior. I've been sneaky to release endorphins. TikTok just turned us all into goldfish, and I don't get gratification. It's not good. Instant gratification, unfortunately, is something that lives in all of our lives now. It's not something I tried to stay away from, but unfortunately, it is part of our lives. Adding that into your product, unfortunately, is something you have to do. And you can do it in many, many ways. Little badge notifications to say, well done, you've pressed a button. That genuinely will help your product. Wild as that is, you have to look at it from that viewpoint that we have to compete with the larger, big kind of product companies that are playing in these mind areas about dopamine and releases. So yes, think about that to create kind of good user behavior. And yeah, keep things light, keep things simple, obviously with the TikTok analogy. And the outcome, as fun as kind of, and hopefully as fun as it's been, the outcome is you are trying to create with product, you have responsibility to create a better world for people to live in. If you can make someone else's life slightly better, and you can create a business value proposition around that, do that. It's kind of your responsibility. If you can view someone to make someone's life better, make something less transactional, less frictional, and make it easier for someone to access something they might need, it's your purpose to do that. So yeah, make the world slightly better if we can. If it doesn't work, get weirder. Every time I've fallen down with product, I've just got really, really weird. Not things that would open up in these doors, but ways of kind of making things more appropriate to users, making things more appealing. So spend your time, be creative with it, and always fall back on process. Creative in the front end, process in the back end, and you should get there. That's it. There we are. Finished. Questions?
Questions, yeah.
So it all comes down to the basics for the first question. It's about choosing the product in the first place. So I've read it somewhere where don't build up don't find a customer for your product rather than build a product for your customer. Build a product for your what customer needs. So basically solving the problems. So doesn't it conflicts with the whole idea of like what you believe in? For example, I've been working my whole entire life on something and I want to create something from that.
I think for me, I mean, there is different viewpoints on it. Whenever I try to build a product or build anything for anyone, I spend time in their lives to validate the product. I don't ever think, oh, I would never, my advice would be never sit there and think I've got a good idea of this. It sounds like it would make money. It seems cool. I think it's a good idea. And then try to find people around it. If you're interested in someone, you need to be, if you're interested in creating a decent product, you need to be more, you need to view someone's life in a view a group of people's lives with extreme kind of understanding to say, I actually want to help you do something. If you look at any big decent products outside of the social media companies, they solve big problems in we started in really minute ways, and they didn't start themselves. Zoom, when it started, didn't go, right, we want to start videoing people. What they started was that people need to work from home, work from different areas and start talking to each other. It's a communication platform. When, for example, Stripe, do you remember Stripe? Everyone knows Stripe, the facility of Stripe. Do you know when they started that? Yeah, they literally, whenever you would click to send money, you'd have a developer behind the background sending money to and from places because they wanted to understand. They said, is this an actual problem or not? Validation of users. If your user isn't at the front of the queue, you ever heard the saying, the cart dragging the horse, the tail wagging the dog? If your user isn't the dog and you're not the tail, right, you've done it the wrong way around. And I'd put my hat on it every day. There'll be people that have done it different ways, but this is the way I assign myself to it. So yeah, it is contradictive, but I do believe that user-centric approaches means happy users, means a lot of good things in the back end of the product. Perfect. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, just kind of follow up on that actually. I completely agree. Like, I think the product people, probably the most important thing that you actually need to do is just spend time with your customers.
Oh, massively.
I do it myself a lot. And I was wondering, like, you know, a lot of the time customers will say, well, I need X. And I have my own ways to try and gauge why they want that. I was just wondering what kind of ways that you do to find discovery.
Next time he says I need X, tell him shut up. Promise now, tell him shut up. Say, okay, what's your why what do you actually, what's your problem? Don't ever, I honestly, whenever I speak to my users, I tell her I don't want to talk about a solution. Whenever we go on a solution conversation, I'm like, what are you doing? I get paid money to do this. This is my job. Don't do my job. I'll do my job. You just tell me what your problem is, let me go and solve it. You know, like when you get a plumber around the house, you don't go, my toilet's blocked. I need 17-inch pipe down here. I need 3-inch. You don't do that. Don't do that with me. Your toilet's blocked. I'll fix the toilet. And that's the same thing. So don't let users drag you around. Hey, I'm here to solve a problem for you. Let's talk about your problem. Don't worry about the solution. I will bring the right tools. Trust in me. So yeah, next time, and if they just email me and I'll tell them shut up as well. Just do that, okay? Think about the problem, not a solution. You want to go back to that essence level thinking of why are we actually doing something? If it's a problem, and then measure right analysis of the problem. Out of 10, how big is this problem? How often do you come into it? Measure the problems and then solutionize around that. You all got big brains. Don't let them focus about being a user. You focus about being problem solvers. Perfect. Yes.
Slightly topic, but how did you come across the idea, or what did you think of the app?
Perfect. Great question. I've got great. Everyone sit down. I've got great. So we talk about being a user. This is my best user story. I was a lorry driver. I came out of the army, so I was in the army 6 years. Deaf in my left ear, and I was medically discharged. It went into being a lorry driver. So I was doing my business degree in the day, and I was lorry driving at night because lorry driving isn't as great as it's a great career choice because they earn loads of money. You don't have to take it home. I'm not thinking about problem solving when I go home. Now with MMA Digital, I sit at home and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll scribble stuff down and I'll go, oh, that's a problem. That's a solution to that problem. With lorry driving, I didn't have to do that. I spent my time lorry driving. I spent my time in the problem that I was having and just thought, this is stupid. But so I have an elevator pitch about lorry driving, and it's a great one. It's a really, really great. It's a great understanding. It's when was the last time any of you ever was grateful that a lorry was there? Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's everyone. No one likes lorry drivers. That's fine. Now name something in this room that hasn't come by lorry. 98% of everything that comes on the road is by a lorry driver. It's a hidden problem which allowed my product to grow because no one ever considered it. So when you talk about how did I find a product, I was part of the problem. I sat there and went, this is a really bad problem. We've got lorry drivers that are losing out on money to agencies, taking large cuts. We've got companies getting thrown around by agencies. Let's decentralize that. Every single person, I'm proud to say, every single person that's ever worked for Avail, my app, has seen a pay increase. Everyone, because I built a problem around the solution that I built the solution around the problem I was having, and then just put it into market. And because everyone was having the same problem, it just grew. So yeah, when I said to follow the users around, I was actually a user. So yeah, and I've employed myself through my own lorry driving app before as well. So it's really weird when you turn up to someone's company and be like, hi, yeah, I'm Erin, I'm your lorry driver for the day. Also, I own the company. Yeah, 27,000 lorry drivers. Nice to meet you. It's a weird thing to do. So yeah, do become the user. Any questions? Yes, please.
What market research would you do to study like your user behavior?
Good question. This is such a hard thing to do, and it's such a hard thing to do it right as well, because mostly I try to diversify into people. Whenever you ask someone to do something for you, it's usually because they're either trying to be your mate or there's monetary stuff involved, and it skews the answers. My market research, first of all, is whenever I design something, I say, okay, well, I look at obviously the problem first. You start problem first. For market research, I mean, you have to really get into a decent group and try to ask really simple questions. Whenever I try to research someone, I don't try to lead them onto my boat, which is what I like to call it. Whenever you talk to someone, I can lead you intuitively. As humans, we want to agree with each other. If I start asking you, so whenever I speak about market research, I speak about simple kind of areas. How often do you encounter this problem? How often? What keeps you up at night? What would make your life easier? What makes you more money? If you make someone's life easier and make more money, they'll do it. And that's just our capitalist life that we live in, unfortunately, until we all start selling seeds to each other. That's that. So if you can answer them kind of questions, please try to bring it back down to the basis and don't try to bring them onto your boat. What's your chain of thought? When you come into the office day in, day out, and you need to do this by group as well. However I incentivize people in group is what I say is, if you come part of this kind of research group, I'm going to build a product fit that fits the whole market, but your foot's in the mold. So it's going to be more comfortable to you. So let's do it together. You'll get an early release. You'll get X amount off. You need to really love these people, because they'll give you really valuable insight. I will lose money on all of the people that originally kind of help, regardless of size, regardless of how big of a monster of a company they are. If they originally help, lose money on them, because you want to incentivize these people, because the more honest feedback, the more time you can spend with them, the more intuitive you can be with them in that market research phase, the more you'll value and benefit from them. So market research, I would say, trying to incentivize people with money, incentivize them with product at the end. Don't get them onto your boat. Ask them to think for themselves. Don't ask leading questions, ask open-ended questions, and allow them to figure it for themselves. And whenever they get onto, you can't solve this problem this way, tell them shut up. Perfect. Any other questions? Oh no, one over here.
Except the ones that you built yourself.
Yes.
Which product you most admire that adheres towards the principles that you built?
Oh.
Which one do you wish you built?
If I tell you which one I wish I built, I have to turn off this microphone. The one I wish I built. It's unbelievable. There's a few that I wish I built. But there's one at the moment which I just think it's just a wild story. We'll just sorry. We'll just go for it. OnlyFans. The guy who built OnlyFans. Right. Let's move back out from it. The guy who built OnlyFans. You know what he built it for? Do you know, anyone know what OnlyFans originated from?
It was for them to like sell.
Amazing. Sell art. Someone somewhere thought, I'm going to help small creators sell art and music. Right. So, and he did. And he helped people, and he took a 20% cut, and everything was rosy and nice and very wholesome. And then we all know what happened. And now you can't turn it off. You cannot turn it off. There's so many different layers. If we move away from all what it actually is, look at the principle of it. We've got people at home doing it as part-time jobs. We've got mums at home doing it. We've got dads at home doing it. You can't turn it. You can't turn it off. There's people that live by this now. As someone started that is a really extreme example of a product becoming something you didn't realize it would become. It solved a problem for millions of people in the most peculiar way. So I wouldn't want it because I don't really align to the ethic of it. I think we should all do nice things to each other rather than being forced down the road. I don't think that's right. But the fact that imagine the board meeting saying, okay, porn star's got a hold of OnlyFans now, 90,000 people have signed up in a week. It's ridiculous, but this is it's the story of the product. The product they started a product with all this becoming, and then it came into a marketplace, and that marketplace took it over and let it become what it is. No one ever thought about. You read back on the notes, this is what we want it to be, and now it is that. So yeah, I think if there was any product that I would love to just sit on the board meetings and just go, this is an awkward board. So yeah, probably that. It's a lot of fun. Go.
Got a question from online. How do you keep yourself fresh mentally and ready for a new day with new problems? How do you avoid the burnout?
Fantastic. So we can all have a piece of my mind. I am in the 94th percentile of ADHD. I am overflowing with it. It comes out of my ears. It comes out. I sleep with it. I'm full of it, which allows me to operate in a way which would burn 90% of people out. My escapism of life is creating other businesses. That's why I enjoy trying to do things in new ways. So to keep myself fresh, I don't have to escape anything. I don't have to sit and read, which is unfortunate for all my competitors, but great for me because it's unfortunate. So my ADHD, yeah, I'm absolutely bounding off the walls of it. I wake up like a small burning star. I go to sleep as a small burning star. I wake back up as that small burning star. And it's been like that my whole life. So yeah, for me, I sit outside slightly of the boundary of, I don't ever, unfortunately, reach burnout. I have to keep that away from my employees. I have a responsibility to make sure that their lives are balanced. Mine is not balanced. I know that. My work-life balance is not something that I would recommend. I look tired quite a lot of the time, but it's the way I live my life. I love my job. I love what I do. I've just been recently appointed as the CPO for MMA Digital. Got lots to do there, and it keeps me up at night. But it keeps me up because it's an escapism. I don't have to go on nature walks. If I go on nature walks, you'd find me just on the phone talking to someone about something about product. So it's, unfortunately, yeah, I can't really offer advice because my advice is like eat sweets and do more products. it's not good.
Don't think we've got any more questions from the room.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
A round of applause.
Right. So thank you to Erin. Thank you once again to all of our speakers. Before I move on, are there any more questions for anyone else for the earlier speakers that have gone before? Oh, okay. So this is me. This is Ross. So Ross looks after the main SocialCode event. Ross is going to quickly jump in and talk about that now.
Yeah. So first of all, I do want to take 2 seconds and just say thanks to Colin to put this together and to have as many of you turn up as there is, considering that there's no trains running at the moment, is fantastic. So thank you to everyone for coming out. Thanks to Colin. I know a few of you have been to the SocialCode before, but for anyone who hasn't, it was born out of the back of a dev meetup that I ran over the last few years. SocialCode started about 18 months ago now when I joined Oscar. We're now up to 2,800 members in the Northwest. For a bit of context, we're a dev meetup primarily in terms of how we started, but we've kind of got to the point where the reality is the whole of the SDLC is covered. We're not going to sit there and show code and be like, hey, look at how amazing this one particular technology is. It's about theory, it's about mentality, and it's about different ways that you can apply stuff, and it applies to anyone who's working in the SDLC. We've got the QR code there. Thanks to Joe for putting that up. We're having an event 2 weeks today right here. But in terms of what we're covering, just as an example for how it would all work, we've got one person who's covering domain-driven design, not just, oh, this is domain-driven design, how to do it. It's how does that apply to my team? How does that affect testers? How does that affect product? How does that affect BAs? How does that affect everyone around us? We've got another talk that's about how do we create a culture where anyone who's working in the SDLC feels valued, feels like they're contributing and pulling their weight, but also is valued for their contributions and feeling well, but also how to apply that to remote, hybrid, and in-office-based solutions. And the third talk, it's my personal favorite, is it's called the Confessions of an Amateur Public Speaker. And it's basically for anyone who has to speak in any public situation, whether that's a stand-up, a client meeting, doing something like this, whatever it may be. It's the realities of it's not all rosy and we can all stand up confident. I'm secretly bricking it right now, I'll be totally honest. But that's our event on the 14th of July. Would love to see as many of you there. I know I've seen a couple of you there before, so thank you for coming along to this as well. Thursday, 20th of October, me and Cole have got something pretty special planned. For those of you who don't know, Oscar have partnered with Manchester Tech Festival, which is our inclusive festival that's coming for that entire week over at Victoria Baths. We're going to be running one of the fringe events. So every night they're having a different event throughout Manchester, but we'll be having an event here on the Thursday evening. We'll be cross-pollinating between all the different areas of the SDLC. We're not just looking for dev-related talks, product-related talks, anything like that. If you've got anything that you think would be interesting, that you think would bring here, me and Cole are both all ears. Please do suggest it to us. By all means, if you're interested in speaking, come and grab us and let us know. I would also, whilst I'm a little bit biased because I've helped out with a few different things and I've submitted a call for a paper, Manchester Tech Festival does look absolutely fantastic. The people running it are very community focused. It's a not-for-profit event. So please do get involved with that as well. That's me. Cheers.
So just again, thanks very much to our speakers. 3 people have come and spoken tonight in front of a room full of their peers and the online people. It takes a lot of kahunas to do that. So thanks very much again to you guys for agreeing to come along and do that. And thanks again to all of you lot for showing up. Please take some pizza home. A few of us are going for drinks afterwards. You're more than welcome to come. We've got the company credit card. Let's abuse it.
Yeah, as someone who does these meetups a bit more often than Cole, please follow Cole to the pub. Your first few pints are free.
Right, thank you very much.